I will continue now explaining from the perspective of music what Pak Kun has explained before from the perspective of astronomy. So before I briefly explain, I would like to say that actually music is the same discipline like astronomy, but we studied it with a different way, like with the way the musician studies it, according to what Pak Kun has already explained from the Pythagoras view and Pythagorean theorem. As everybody knows, is A quadrat plus B quadrat is C quadrat, dalil Pythagoras. And so in the Western music, I will I'm not going to go to the music of the world in the sense of natural music like pentatonic scale and so. So basically, specifically, we are going to talk about the Western music that became classical, jazz, and pop music nowadays that we listen to on Spotify and on whatever the application that you use. So musica universalis is actually a Latin language for the term of the music of the universe or harmony of the spheres of music of the sphere. So as it is written here in the science of Western music, one of the main subjects at the Music Academy, what we studied, is musica universalis. As I said, Latin words of universal music or music with universal character, also known as music of the spheres or harmony of the sphere. What we have studied according to the history of the ancient Greeks and ancient Sumerians, for instance, it was very philosophical. And they used to study the stars and they look upon, they didn't have the kaleidoscope and whatever scope of all this modern machine that we use today. So they were imagining, or even the legend says that they could hear the sound of the planet because it was so silent at that time. There's no pollution, there's no radio frequency, there's no cars. It was completely silent at on Earth. That is why they could feel, like what Pak Kun already explained, that they felt that vibration, even though they cannot hear the sound. And according to the history, Pythagoras, the legend says that the Pythagoras could hear it. Well, I don't know what happened like 2,000 years ago. I'm just quoting that what we have studied. So in the ancient philosophical concept that regards proportions in the movements of celestial bodies, and at that time, they discovered the sun, the moon, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Jupiter and Mars. So they have not yet discovered the Neptune, Uranus, and all the other planets in our solar system. So this is what we studied in the Music Academy. And then the music was not audible, of course, because everybody says, how can you hear the sound? Because out there in the space, it's vacuum, no oxygen, no air. But Pak Kun has already explained that. I will tell you later how it became music. Anyway, the music was not audible, but seen as the mathematical outcome of their heavenly interrelations. As I can also add to this that they were very spiritual. So they combined their intuition based on their spiritual belief or conviction, and then they expressed it into mathematics, the language of mathematics. And here we can see, and you can see the orbit. This is how we learn. Let's say based on Kepler discovery. Then we go to Pythagoras. As I have already mentioned before, he was a Greek mathematician, philosopher, and he also had a very profound knowledge about geometry. And then, as I have already said before, A2 plus B2. So the first ancient astronomy that suggested the harmony of the spheres or the theory of the planets, each emit their own distinctive hum, maybe like something like that, or based on how they revolve in their orbits, as explained by Pak Kun before, was discovered by Pythagoras and perceived as cosmic vibrations. So based on his discovery, the sphere was thought to be related by the whole number ratios. So Pythagoras is also the inventor of numerology. That is also what we study. And numerology, nowadays, they use it as a divination system to predict the good times, the bad times, to decide what to do in your career and etc. So the whole number ratios of a pure musical spares enabling Pythagoras to discover the consonant musical intervals that can be expressed in simple ratios of small integers. The legend said, as I already said before, that he could hear the sounds of the planet, so the tones correlated with the great celestial movements of the day. And this is the instrument that he used, which is called monochord. If you can see that on the right side, this is the replication of the monochord. So what he did was, using his knowledge of geometry, and he also studied the lyre. It has 4 strings, the ancient Greek music instrument. And then what he did was, he pressed it on the string, and I can try to simulate the sound. When he said that when he pressed in the middle, and then, so this is the ratio that he discovered from this one monochord, that one string. And he wrote it with his knowledge of the numbers. It became perfect fifth in music. So perfect fifth is an interval. And we played all the notes between the intervals of perfect fifth. As an example, in C major, C, I press now the C4. Why is it called C4? Because it is the 4th octave from C1, C2, C3, and C4. This is also called middle C. Okay, then I play the notes between the perfect fifth. Good. Is one Indonesian would say do, re, mi, fa, sol. Good. And then I start from the tone G. Hey. Okay. And then from G to C, it is perfect fourth. So cosmology and geometry, Pythagoras studied the lyre, and he began to investigate interval in music using the monochord. So that's how he discovered the harmonious interval, which is divided by the frequencies of 2 vibrating strings and coexisting in the specific ratio. Well, this part, I cannot explain it from the perspective of astronomy. I can only explain it from the perspective of the sound, how we musicians understand sound. So as you can see here, is the first harmonic. It's unison. For instance, if you sing together, da, da, this is unison. And then when we sing it, the second harmonic vibrates with twice in frequency. This is an octave, which is the ratio of 2 and 1. And then the third harmonic, as you can see it on the graphic, is the perfect fifth. The ratio is 3, 2. And then 4 harmonic, perfect fourth. This is perfect fourth. Ratio of 4, 4, and 3. This knowledge became our music circle of fourth and circle of fifth. The 4 harmonics are the base of the major scale, diatonic scale, 7 notes. I'll explain it now, just briefly. As you can see that on the picture is, we start with perfect fifth, the circle of fifth. This is in music, the C, and then the interval of perfect fifth, and then it goes on to D, and it goes to A, E, and then to B. Now it's going to be too high here, so I'm going to play it sequentially like this. G, D, A, E, B, G flat or F sharp, to D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and we're back to C. If we play it backward with the circle of fourth, it will go B flat, E flat, A flat D, G flat B, E, D, okay, C. But we can play it successively like so. And this has become, it became the basic of all the composition, arrangement, and orchestration. And I think that it would take too long if I would explain why it's go to sharp and then now it's go to be to flat side. That is another topic. That would be music theory. We are not talking about music theory in that sense today. So this is what we see. What we see here is with Pythagoras concept that was transferred by Plato. Well, actually, Plato in the beginning he was skeptical towards what Pythagoras discovered, and he said, "Well, that's not that way." But and then at the end, he was convinced, and he accepted, and then he promoted Pythagorean theorem further to the mass of people, and he even taught music in the ancient Greece. And music became a compulsory course and a compulsory subject for the young people at that time. So you can see and here E and I played it before, the ratio, and then let's go further. And this is about the tuning system. The Pythagorean tuning is based on perfect fifth. But if you calculate it, well, I'm not going further here because it would take too long, because this alone would need around 1.5 hours to explain. So I will just move further, just to show you how it became melody and harmony. So now we go to Kepler, according to what we study in music. So he was a German astronomer, a mathematician, and then he was in the 17th century, and he learned and he studied from Pythagoras, I mean the theory of Pythagoras, and then Copernicus, and then other people, and he discussed a lot, and he was also involved in music activities in Germany at that time. And he actually, if I may say, completed with his explanation, so to make people understand what actually was developed and invented by Pythagoras. So I can show you here. So Johannes Kepler used the concept of the music of the sphere in his Harmonie Mundi. So the difference is Pythagoras developed music of the universe, and Kepler continued and he named his discovery as music of the world, or harmony of the world. And in Latin, of course, it's Harmonices Mundi. That was in 1619. So Kepler was convinced that the geometrical things have provided the creator with a model for decorating the whole world. So in harmony, he attempted to explain the proportions of the natural world, particularly the astronomical and astrological aspects. Well, astrological aspects, of course, he mentioned like Libra, as Pak Kun already mentioned before, Libra, Scorpio, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Scorpio, Cancer, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and so on and so on, the 12 zodiacs. So he combined it together, and then the central set of harmonies was the Musica Universalis, of course, based on Pythagoras' discovery. So which had been studied by, well, I don't have to read that, Ptolemy. Ptolemy was also famous in our study because he was an astrologer and also astronomer. So the connection between geometry or sacred geometry, that is how the ancient Greek believed, cosmology, astrology, harmonics, and music is through the music of sphere. Okay, I'm not going to go here to the celestial physics, but let's go directly to the Kepler. This is what Kepler has. Well, I don't have to explain again because Pak Kun already explained this. Good. And here, music played a key role in the emergence of the new astronomy. So Kepler was involved in the practice of music as well as in its application to astronomy. So Kepler sought the explanation of planetary motions in terms of harmonic relationship in his Harmonices Mundi. So I'm going to play the notes what he discovered. Together the planets, I read it here down here, is that together the planets produce the music of the spheres. For instance, Mercury is the soprano, Venus and the Earth the altos, Mars the tenor, and the Jupiter and Saturn basses or baritone. And here we can see the note, which is written by Kepler. I'll play it. For instance, the frequencies of the Saturn, then the frequency of Jupiter, and then Mars, then Terra means the Earth, and then Venus, then Mercury, then Locum habet is, so it was all written in the notation which is called at that time Neum. From this Neum developed to the modern notation here underneath. As you can see, it became the modern notation like this. This was used in from the 9th to around 13th century. This is how people read the music notation at that time. Okay, and then this is the person who studied music and also studied astrophysics. So he is a PhD in astrophysics and bachelor degree he holds in music. And he also explained the relation between astronomy and music. So you can see, I think that this is the trappist system that he developed. You can see it here, the planet with the notes in music, B, C, D, E, F, G, well, H. In German, it would be B. So if I play the note, it would sound like this. Thank you. Not yet. I would like to also explain a little bit further about then according to Pythagoras' discovery with the perfect fourth, and then we go further from F to C is perfect fifth. So the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth, when they put together, they become an octave. 7 notes, and the 8th note is actually the same note right before, which is on 1 octave higher. And this too is called two tetrachord. So in Greek language, it says 4 notes. That's one, and the second one is again. The second one is. So they combine this together, then it became major scales that we know today. That's a major scale in C, example in C. So conclusion is 1 octave consists of 2 intervals, which is perfect fifth and perfect fourth. Because if you are going to put it in a 4.5, you have to use the F sharp, for instance, if the note is C, the key. So F sharp can divide an octave between 2 equal halves, 4.5 and 4.5, using the note F sharp. But that is not any more diatonic, the major scale. That we will explain that in the next, or sometimes in the next webinar. And before we go to the question and answer, I would like to also add the rhythm. Rhythm is derived from the Greek word rhythmos. And actually rhythm, if you played it fast, for instance, this is rhythm. Ta, 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 and then you do it very fast, it became melody. So melody and rhythm actually is the same, but the rhythm is slower, and then when it's played faster, it became a pitch. a pitch where you can say that note C, note D, note E, or so. So that is from me, and thank you very much for listening and watching.